line. But let me bring in on this broadcast Mr. Sanjay Sahai, former IPS officer who is with us on this broadcast. We also have Dinesh Rao, forensic expert, with us. Mr. Sanjay Sahai, good evening. I'd like to begin with you first on how challenging an investigation this really is for authorities, sir. That something that dates back to over 10 years ago is something they're looking for hints and clues and evidence for now.
See, first and foremost, the challenge is the scale. One is the time part of it, which I think ranges from 1995 to 2014. The second is the scale. And the third is the nature of scientific/forensic examination, which is required. So the part which one can be happy about or one can commend the government is that they have made a SIT team under a very accomplished leader, and there are lots of other members also who are basically up to the requirement of this particular case. The level of transparency and documentation, whatever we can see in the public domain, I think that is forthcoming. Forensic scientists with the investigative officers, and I think advocates also from the side of the complainant. And the complainant himself is there at each and every spot. 2 days back, they were able to identify 13 spots. And there is another special spot which the complainant says that there are a large number of bodies or skeletal remains which could be found. From 1 to 5, though it is said to be complete, in case it is required, they will come back. No major remains have been reported. But personal belongings, blouse, PAN, ATM card is found at one site. And today the major revelation came when at one site we got the skeletal remains. And all these skeletal remains, or at least the skeletal remain, they have been able to find today. So it is being properly stored as per the scientific procedure, and we'll go for the forensic analysis. As we move further, the Forensic Science Laboratory or the Karnataka Forensic Science Laboratory will be able to help to a considerable degree, but there is also a requirement that there should be support systems which should come from the national agencies, Central Forensic Science Laboratory. And here there are very specialized areas in anthropology, in archaeology, in pathology, which will be required, plus very complex DNA, fingerprinting and DNA analysis will be required. So broadly, there is a need for, might be a local forensic science laboratory only, rather than transporting all this to variety of places and getting reports and things of that nature. So currently, I think the way this particular investigation is going, it's on the right track. Might be more of forensic support is required as more of skeletons or skeletal remains are found. But as of now, this is where we are. So they're moving in the right direction.
Okay, Mr. Sahai, I request you to stay with us because you did say that a lot hinges upon also the forensics investigation in this particular case. We have Mr. Dinesh Rao, also forensics expert, with us. Mr. Rao, skeletal remains being found today. The police at this point, and sources tell us that these are partial remains of a male skeleton. But tell us really what happens next. How does the forensic sciences team take things forward now?
See, the most important objectives of exhumation process is more than finding the cause of death, it is the identification of the skeletal remains. Means once we identify the skeletal remains, the next important process is establishing the identity of the person to whom does it belong to. So this is the most important objectives of exhumation besides the cause of death. So once these bones are recovered, depending on the examination of the bones, the age of the person, the sex of the person, the height of the person, and the DNA samples will be taken out, and a profile will be built about the so-called skeletal remains profile to establish the identity. Once that DNA profile has been made along with these parameters about the age and sex, that group of the age and sex group which are being reported missing or being allegations of crime has been there, those families will be called in and their blood samples will be collected. For example, if the skeletal remains belong to a 25-year-old female, and in that case, all the missing case of 25-year-old female, their family members will be called and their blood samples will be taken and their DNA and this DNA from the skeletal remains will be matched. That's how the establishment of the identity takes place. And now, when this process is over, what's next? The next part is depending on the examination of bones to find the cause of death. If there are blunt injuries and sharp injuries, means if there are from sword injuries or machete injuries or an axe injury or
Okay.
due to rods or a stone or any stick injuries, so those injuries and the result of those injury as a cause of death will be concluded. And once that cause of death will be concluded, then this version or the allegations from the family will also be recorded. But other deterrent factors or so-called errors which may happen in this is especially if the family alleges that the possibility of sexual assault, absolutely that cannot be confirmed at this stage after 15-20 years on skeletal
Okay.
remains. Even hanging and strangulation and throttling, that cannot be also be confirmed because they're all soft
Okay,
tissue
that's
related
important.
injuries which cannot be confirmed on the by the bone
But
examination.
just a quick follow-up question also, Mr. Rao, which is that in this particular case, they haven't recovered the complete remains. It's just partial remains that have been found. Of course, the search right now is underway for more remains. But with just partial remains, can you actually take forward the investigation and find what you need to find?
Absolutely, it depends on what type of bones they got. If they got the skull and the hip bones, definitely 100% accuracy with the age and the sex can be made out. But if they got only the rib cage bones or small bones from the hands or the toes, absolutely nothing can be inferred. So,
Okay.
and only the long bones they got, that is hands from the limbs, and even only with the limb bones, hardly around 60% accuracy we can give. But skull and the hip bones are very vital and that will help in the identification. And if that is not recovered, that will be a very difficult for them to go ahead with the investigation pertaining to the accuracy. That will
Yeah.
entirely depend on the DNA.
It's quite challenging, definitely. And Mr. Sanjay Sahai, bringing this back to you, one of the aspects that's constantly been discussed about this case is that, look, the allegations that have been put forth by this former sanitation worker are extremely sensational, extremely grave. But the question that constantly comes up is, how is it that for decades he buried hundreds of bodies and nobody knew? Why aren't there equal number of missing complaints? Or even for that matter, in the last 1 month since he spoke out, why aren't there been hundreds of families that have spoken out about their loved ones going missing?
See, there are lots of things in this particular investigation which is above and beyond exhumation and what the investigative process based on the exhumed skeletal remains will finally give us. What is very, very intriguing is for nearly 19-20 years, the local police and the state operates in that area did not get a whiff of whatever has happened in case
Yeah.
we go completely by the sanitation workers description or narrative. The second point is he has been burying in non-designated areas. When non-designated areas, once or twice, if it is used for purposes of criminal nature, it's somehow it can be handled or it can escape oversight. But in case if it is happening on a regular basis, there will be some informer, there will be somebody, might be an activist, somebody will bring this to light. So it is certainly very, very intriguing. And the most important part is he talks about sexual assault. And most of these bodies which he has buried, he talks about women, young girls who have gone through sexual assault. And we also have a database of missing people or unidentified dead bodies. Now, that database and the quantum of numbers which he is talking about. I don't know how much is matches, how much it doesn't. I have absolutely no idea. But the point is, in the last 15-20 days from third or the fourth, there are not many people who have come forward to complain that my child or my relative has been missing and it has remained undetected for so many years. So I think
Correct.
this knot has really to be untied for us to understand what has happened. And if the skeletal remains are not forthcoming, and there are other databases which are available with the police and lots of local information which needs to be garnered there, if they
Yes.
don't add up, then there is certainly an issue. There is also a
Correct.
helpline and other sorts of overreach which the
Correct.
SIT team is doing. So let's see if that also brings further information, which adds up to the nature of revelation which the sanitation worker has bring forth.
We just hope that when this investigation ends, there's closure. Whichever way it is, there's closure. Because
Correct.
looking at the fact that there's a delay in the investigation, and what I mean by that is, 10 years on, this entire issue has come to the fore, these allegations have come to the fore. There are challenges, of course, in ensuring a complete 360-degree investigation, and we hope because of that, there are no questions left for people to answer, and that this gets complete closure, and there are full details that emerge of exactly what happened, whichever way it is. Mr. Sahai, Mr. Dinesh Rao, thank you very much for your time and for joining us here on India Today.